Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for being here with me today. My name's Ariel, and we're going to talk a little bit about the digital SAT and basically how this is going to be very different than the original paper and pen SAT test that you're very used to already. So, next slide, please. Before we begin, I'm going to give a brief introduction of myself so you know who you're listening to for the next 20 minutes or so. So, as I mentioned, my name is Ariel, and I'm the Global Head Counselor and co founder of Millie Group, a college counseling and also an academic mentoring online company. And we are here to assist you to achieve your university application goals. Before I found my company, I was actually a part of the in school guidance counseling team in two Ivy World schools in Hong Kong. So, if you have any questions about applying to universities abroad, be it US, UK, Canada, Australia, you name it, I'm more than happy to speak to you about your case. And in terms of my undergraduate experience, I actually went to Cornell University in the US for my undergraduate degree, and I graduated with the Bachelor of Science in Hotel Administration, and now I'm an educator. Next slide, please. So let's look at the digital SAT and understand how it's different and the same as the paper SAT test that you used to take. Okay. So first of all, good news for the students. I would say that the change would normally be majority speaking in the testing format, not the test content, because we know that the SAT is still testing you on your understanding of English as well as your math computational skills. But at the same time, there's certain parts of the content, adding and taking out some of the parts, but then most likely content part stays the same, and the testing format are the major things that has been changing. And overall speaking, we observe based on our pilot testing, as well as some of the test takers coming back to tell us about how the test has been changed after they take the diagnostic test offered by College Board. We actually see more changes in the English section than in the math section. So, for instance, in English section, we see that there are inclusions of short text instead of the previous long text, and then it's more focused on analysis in terms of like your understanding of the language and how you deduce to the conclusion and make your judgment. And there's also the first appearance of poetry related questions, and also there's certain kind of question, we call it the note summary type of question. And in terms of math, we see that there's an inclusion of the digital calculator available for students to use in the entire math section. So there's no longer a non-calculator section. So if you're the type of students that struggle a little bit without your calculator, this probably is a good news for you, because now you can use the calculator in the entire math section. And we also see how the level of difficulty or the range of difficulty in the math section sort of expanded. So easier question became easier, but the harder question also became harder. But then the majority of the questions still stay in the bell curve, in the middle of the bell curve. So you would only see very simple question and very difficult questions, and there are only very few of them. And the majority of the questions remain in the normalized range. So let's click to the arrow and see a little bit more in detail regarding some of the format changes. So let's talk about what's staying the same first. So first of all, the SAT test is still measuring the knowledge and skills that matter the most for the university. So it's not testing your Spanish, it's not testing your English literature skills. It's more like testing the overall English understanding and comprehension, as well as the math, just like before. And similar to the test that we have been seeing previously, it is still scored maximum 1,600. So with the English section remaining 800 and math section remaining 800. And for the high caliber universities that you're thinking about, for example, the US Ivy League universities, it's still going to be asking students at around over 1,500 in terms of target scores. And if you're thinking that the SAT becoming digital means that you can probably take it at home with your laptop, this is not the case. Unfortunately, you still need to head to your school or your local test center with your device in order to take the test. There's still going to be a proctor present, and you're still going to take it in a timed assessment environment, but only with your electric devices. And if your school is already a test center, you also need to register on College Board and indicating that your school is going to be the test center for your particular seating. So all of these combined, there's still going to be new sort of practice resources that you can access online. So this is the same as the previous College Board arrangement. They also release practice test papers that you can leverage. And in terms of what is changing, however, instead of doing the test on paper and pen, you're actually asked to bring a laptop or a tablet, and you're going to be completing the test on your own device with a system provided by College Board. And for students, once again, good news, this is going to be a shorter test than before. And if you remember taking the SAT diagnostic test before, or like you try to take an official SAT before this year, actually it's a quite a long test. It's a 3-hour test in total. But now it has been changed to just 2 hours, including 2 sections, and once again, 1 in English and 1 in math. And here in the official College Board website, it also mentioned about shorter reading passages instead of long text. So before, if you remember, in the text in the practice test papers, usually there would be long text that would ask students to answer the subsequent 10 to 12 questions or so. But then this time, the reading passage, they're short and they correspond with only 1 question each. And last but not least, you're allowed to use your own calculator the entire time during the math section, but they also have a digital calculator built in the whole testing system that you're experiencing. Okay, now back to the slide. So if you feel anxious, about this whole thing, first of all, realize that the SAT is now changing format starting March 2023. So as a matter of fact, it's going to be this coming Saturday for their official first SAT digital test administration. So it's normal to feel anxious. And if you want to adopt a wait and see attitude, that's also okay. So just see how the March test is going, and then you can enroll for the May test. And note that this is only for international students in international locations. And the change in the US, if you're boarding school students in the US, they're actually happening in 2024. So you can think of 2023 as sort of like a testing phase for all international students to adapt to the new digital SAT. And most likely, you would start preparing for the test and then take it maybe 2 to 3 tries before you get the optimum score. So we normally advise students to complete the test, say in 2023, with the remaining 2-3 seatings and get it over and done with. And note that your score is valid for 2 years. So even if you're grade 10 students right now, when you're grade 12, your SAT score would still be valid for university application. Okay, next slide, please. So now, okay, this is a sample question of the shorter text that I keep mentioning. So you can see before there's like a whole long passage that you need to read and extract information from, and then tackle the 10 to 12 questions on the side. But then with this new digital SAT, you can see that basically the paragraph is only 5 sentences around, and then it corresponds with 1 question each. So which means, it's probably easier to read, but then you have to read more passages that has content related to different aspects, and then you need to grasp the content quickly and then tackle the question on the side. Next slide, please. And this is the first appearance of the poetry question. We have never seen poetry questions before in the previous SAT, but then in the practice test and in the pilot test, they actually did include the poetry questions. So, for example, if you're unfamiliar with the content, I recommend you to, do the test papers on College Board and get familiarized with this type of poetry and analytical style questions. Next. So this is sort of like a note summary that students would be experiencing. So basically summarizing the key points and deducing, basically what are some of the main highlights from this particular set of notes that you are seeing. So this also corresponds with College Board wanting to test students on college-specific skill sets, because you're going to be taking a lot of notes in your college lectures and in your TA sessions. So they want to make sure that you have good understanding of how to interpret notes, especially in bullet points as well. Next. So, analysis type of question. So, for this particular type of question in the previous SAT, there were also questions that relates to two different passages. However, in the previous SAT, the passages are longer, so arguably you're given more information to deduce the correct answer. For your subsequent sequences of questions that you need to tackle. However, because the new SAT, the texts are much shorter, it means that you're given less information to process, but at the same time, you would need to have that logical deduction and also sort of ability to link the different perspectives up between passage one and passage two. And through that, you can quickly deduce an accurate answer for your multiple choice. So, yes, the passage is shorter. You're still given two passages like the previous style test, but because the text is shorter, you need that sort of quick thinking and logical thinking in order to analyze the passages quickly and understand the perspective of the two writers and deduce the answer to the question really quickly. Okay, next. So in terms of the digital SAT math section, you can see that this is basically how the interface of the digital calculator looks like. So when you are taking the digital SAT, you would be given a particular system, that you need to log into. It's like a test portal that you need to log into, and you would be completing the whole test on that particular portal via your own device, be it a tablet or a laptop. And built into the test portal, there would be a digital calculator looking exactly like this. If some of the students you're familiar with the Desmos calculator, this is exactly the same interface. So for students who are used to using the digital calculator, this could be good news because especially for some of the question types that involve graphing, this is actually pretty easy to use and it also gives you the exact answer right away. It saves you a lot of time. But then if you're not familiar with this kind of calculator setup, you're still allowed to bring your own calculator, as I explained earlier. However, if you are happy, with this kind of layout and you like it built into your test portal so you don't have to take out anything else, then you need to spend some time familiarizing yourself with this particular setup of a digital calculator. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I think this is also the point, about the easy question being super easy. You can see that this type of question is obviously extremely easy. What is 10% of 470, right? So, and these are the type of questions that students sort of struggle a little bit with in terms of whether or not this is a trick question, right? Because it's too easy. So when our test takers took the pilot test, they feedback to us and be like, okay, there are several questions like this that is just like a no-brainer question. It's almost like they're giving points to you. But then next slide. There's also super hard question or just harder questions. For example, we have seen maybe 1 to 2 questions that actually require students to use calculus knowledge to tackle, right? And these are the questions type that didn't really appear in the previous SAT at all. So for us, our advice is that don't worry if you're not sure how to tackle these type of questions. First of all, the real SAT is an adaptive test. So based on your performance in the test, they would adapt, the question types and what questions to give you as the test goes on. So it's an adaptive test. And if you really experience this type of harder questions in the actual test setting, just know that it's only 1 to 2 questions. Just like the easy questions, it's only 1 to 2 that will come up. They're like anomalies, they're outliers. Just focus on the majority of the questions that you feel confident about, like the main curve in the bell curve. Just focus on those content and make sure that you tackle those questions correctly. And for this, just try your best and maybe prepare 1 to 2 and just try to drill these type of questions a little bit more before your test dates. And even if you're unsure of the answer, don't worry. You can guess the answer and that's not going to take points away from you. You're not going to get penalized for guessing the answer incorrectly. So even if you don't know the answer, be sure to mark your answer, or just guess one of the answers, because if you get it right, great, but then if you don't, you're not going to get points deducted from your total score because you got a wrong answer. Okay, so next slide, please. So that's basically an overview of the new digital SAT test format. And once again, for those of you who joined us a little bit late, please note that the SAT is going to be fully transitioning to the digital format starting March 2023 for international students. So the first test date that they're going to be rolling this out is actually this coming Saturday. So the subsequent test date is going to be in May. So if you want to get prepared for the new style of the SAT, you can either, first of all, scan the QR code on the upper side to book a free 20-minute consultation with our academic mentors, so you can further understand, how the digital SAT is different and what is the best approach to prepare for it if you're planning on taking it in the spring semester or the summer. And if you are still unsure whether or not you would like to take the test and you want to experience the new content for yourself, and you have been doing some of the practices yourself, and you sort of wanting to test your own performance currently to see your level, then I recommend you to scan the QR code at the bottom to register for our free online SAT diagnostic test on March 25th. It's a Saturday, and you'll be able to sit through the entire 2 hours test in a timed assessment with a proctor. And basically, you log in to our Zoom room, and you would be doing the test along with other test takers online. We'll be giving you the test paper on the day of, and the test paper is going to mimic the actual digital SAT paper, no matter the question types or the length of the test or the time limits. So you can actually give yourself a real sort of test environment, and you sit down for 2 hours, tackle the entire test, and you send us back the answer sheets, and we would have graders grading your test results for you. And we'll be sharing the score report with you via email. And after looking at your score, we give the section breakdown. We also give you English score and the math score. So after understanding your performance better, then we can go into tailor making a solution for your SAT preparation, be it a one-on-one mentoring course that we can offer, or it could be a small group class between 3 to 6 students, depending on your availability, your schedule, as well as your current performance. Usually we say that the 1,200 line is a pretty good indicator. If you're above 1,200, you want to move faster with your course progress. It's probably better for you to take the more advanced intensive course one-on-one. But then if you're below 1,200, then it's probably good for you to start with the basics and make sure that you get your English comprehension and also basic mathematic computational skills solid first before you move on to the more intensive preparation module. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much for Nova to enable this talk. And I had fun speaking with all of you today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is also on the screen, so you can take a picture of it and then just contact me later. Yeah. Thank you, and be sure to head back to the remaining sections of the fair if you're still having conversations with different universities or parties. And hope to see you in our booth as well.